Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to another episode of Midweek Mixup. This week we are joined again by what seems to be an honorary panel member, Joe Winter from Song of Iron. How you doing today, brother?
Doing good. Happy to be here.
Awesome stuff, awesome stuff. And yes, I've just seen in chat there, King of Iron, we've just renamed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great to have you back, of course, for the third time now. Of course, to discuss not only this week the development update and career changes of Joe, but also your weekly Xbox and game industry news with a little bit of perspective from Joe himself. So before we get going, of course, we will introduce the panel members today outside of Joe, and they are Mojo Blues and Patchy. First of all, Mojo, how are you doing today, brother? What you been up to?
Doing good. Mostly just playing games. Geared up for Godzilla versus King Kong tonight. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, awesome. And what games? Any particular games recently that you really caught your fancy? Or
been loving Game Pass. You know that Dirt 5 particularly. I've been playing a lot of that. It just never grows old. They did a really good job with it. Just the fun factor, you know, because I'm not a big racing guy game, and I'm not into tweaking on cars and all that kind of other race games do. This is just kind of fun to play.
Yeah, definitely have. It's exactly the same as one of them good games as well, where you feel like you can drop in and just race.
Yeah, way back in the day, Sega had one on the Saturn. I can't even remember the name of it, but it was very similar to a couple of the Dirt games, particularly Dirt 5.
Yeah.
Kind of a rally type game. I don't remember the title.
Was it not Sega Rally?
Yeah, Sega Rally. The one that was on the Saturn. That was amazing.
Yeah. Oh, I've got to agree. That's probably one of the best, well, certainly one of the best racing games of its time anyway, Sega Rally, and it's highly thought of as well these days. But Dirt 5 is just awesome to just jump in and out of. I normally do kind of sections, maybe 3 to 4 of the races every time I jump on, then I can quite happily jump into a different game again. It's one of them ones you can just kind of chip away at. You don't have to dive in and do every competition known to man.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff. And final panel member today, of course, Patchy. How are you doing today, brother? What you been up to?
Oh, I'm doing good. Great to be back on the show again, of course. Joe again in the show, third time as you said. So yeah, I'm excited for tonight. Looking for some new inside news, of course. And yeah, I've been busy with work lately. Didn't play that much. Been back on some PUBG since we spoke last week with Lord Cognito, of course.
Yes.
I need to get my game up and yeah, practicing. So.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah. We all do it, to be fair. Awesome stuff.
Nice.
Yeah. So brilliant. This week we will be discussing, of course, the highlights of the ID at Xbox show. We will not discuss kind of the format and things like that. We've already covered that in our live show, and I think a lot of people have already covered the actual format itself. But we'll concentrate on the brilliance of what did come out of that show, which was the games themselves. And of course, one of those games was Song of Iron, so no better topic to start on than Song of Iron itself. So, Joe, it has been a little bit since you've been on the show, and a lot has happened in that time.
Yeah.
One major change, of course, was you stepped away from your position at 343 Industries and worked on Halo Infinite to take up full-time development of Song of Iron. So how has that been as a change? I know obviously I've asked you this off air, but how has that been as a change compared to working, of course, 2 jobs? Not just that, but working for a large AAA development company to working for yourself. It's a big undertaking, isn't it?
Yeah, it's it's been awesome. You know, I really loved my time at 343. I think I love the people there, and obviously I'm a big Halo fan, so it's awesome to work on it. But it's amazing to now be separated from that and to be able to focus 100% on Song of Iron, which, you know, was hard to do. I mean, I was putting the time in, but that meant less sleep and, getting burnt out on trying to be creative at one place and then be creative again later in the day, and shifting gears and all that sort of stuff. So it's awesome to be able to do that. And honestly, it's like a huge part of it is like having been on your show, and then, and just like the fan response to the game gave me the confidence to do it. Otherwise I would have never done it. And there would have been a forever process, and the game would be worse because I would have had less time and stuff. So it's really because of the response that the game's gotten. So
yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you. You made this by yourself, right? This is just you.
Yeah.
So is it financially viable for a one-man team? Like you were already working for a big company and had income coming in, but I guess it just depends on how much you make back once the game comes out. But it seems to me, is that something that other creators can do? Can be that one man, do a game and make it work?
Yeah, it's a tough one. Like, I luckily had a really decent job, and so that kind of gave me a nice runway now that I can take off on with this, which helps a lot. But it's like you said, it's all about the sales, because it's a huge risk kind of bet that it does well. And assuming that happens, then I get a couple more years and then work on the next project. So we'll see. But we'll find out. I don't totally have the answer yet, I guess.
No,
it's hard though. It really depends.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say there's one, because we've asked this from of Thomas Saller as well for the Falconeer. We asked relatively the same kind of question, like what's the financial benefits of or difficulties of doing that? And he said, of course, it is very difficult, because he was lucky enough, of course, to jump into Game Pass as well, kind of day one on launch. But at the same time, he's saying that obviously an initial project, he's kind of recouping the money he needs to live, pay the bills, do what he needs to do. And then there's a little bit kind of left over. So it's more covering his life, first of all. And of course, then the success comes after that. So you initially recoup those costs. To yourself, was it a case of you've obviously part of the decision of leaving 343 and going into full-time development on your own must have been weighing up that financial change as well?
Yeah, exactly. Doing both for a while kind of let me develop for free for a period of time, if that makes sense. And then, and because, my wish list count hit a number that made me really like a goal. And then obviously a lot of the stuff with Xbox has been going really well. And then the demo honestly was sort of the cap to it, the like total nail in the coffin, if you will. Just how many people played and how many of them came from Xbox really made me feel like that I'll get the minimum number I need to consider it a success, and then be able to move on to the next thing. So, but I'm very lucky. I mean, I think your average, or even, the majority of people doing indie stuff, it's a struggle because it's hard to, I've been, I don't know, just really lucky with that Reddit post that then Xbox found. And it's just this long chain of things happening because of each other. And
Well, it is in Game Pass, right? The day one Game Pass?
It is not yet. Not right now.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get you there, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, the hope, everybody tweet at Game Pass.
I'll be honest, most games like this, I wouldn't just purchase. But if they were in Game Pass, I'm downloading it and playing it. Because I know history, right? You go back, Inside and Limbo were kind of like the originators of this kind of, I shouldn't say originators, but they went big time with this style. But even recently, Little Nightmare 2, very similar. So I'm just amazed, though. They had a team doing that. It's just the way you were able to get that much graphics on screen. Again, I'm still amazed. I just think this. I hope you have a massive hit with this, because the game is so
appreciate
great
that.
right now. And I actually love this style. I'm a huge fan, not just of indie games, of this kind of style of game. Where you're constantly, moving in that one direction and doing things. So,
I appreciate that a lot. Yeah, it's it's been a lot of fun. Those games that you listed are, major inspirations to a lot of the stuff I'm trying to do. So it's good
Most
company
definitely.
to be in.
And it's not even been that long since I've played either one of those. And again, I look at your game and I'm like, wow, yeah, you took what somebody did and you made it. I want to say it just better. Just
We'll see. Well, play it first.
amazed.
Play it first and then decide.
Yeah,
You never know.
True on that too.
Now, like I say, I've had the opportunity whilst it was out, and obviously before it came out, played the demo section of it. Obviously, helped you with a few of the bugs and things before that demo come out. But even then, just playing that little segment and seeing kind of where you progressed to so far, and even that was just a tiny slice of this little world you've built. And of course, an even smaller slice of the story you've got up.
Yeah, oof, like nothing. Yeah, I actually I played the demo again yesterday. Xbox was looking to see if they could get a newer build or how so I was looking at the demo just to see how far off it was. It was like, oh my gosh, like the game has gotten so much better. So I was surprised. I really didn't think it would have changed that much, but
yeah,
it really has. Yeah, it's exciting.
And I would say one thing you need to leave out of an updated demo is just still leave out kind of the sword. Well, not the sword. Sorry, the lightning stuff and the fires. Just leave that out. I think just keep that for the full game.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna try to be in the Steam Summer Demo Showcase thing, whatever they just renamed it. I'm planning on it. No promises yet, but I definitely want to.
Yeah,
and I think it would be the actual beginning of the game. So you'd see some new stuff, but then you'd finish with what the demo was. So you'd be able to see what improved. You'd get a little bit more story. But yeah, I'll still stay out of. You wouldn't get any of the magic or any of that till the actual thing.
Good.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, I was going to say keep some of the good stuff for when the game releases, as well as some of the one thing I'm really glad, because I obviously watched Boom's show before you came on here, and the one thing I'm really glad that you mentioned is that you are going to have hidden items that might be a little bit more difficult to find. Explorations, even if it is only a couple of things that are going to be more difficult for the exploration-wise to find, not loads, because of course at the end of the day, like you mentioned, the style of the game and the way that the game's played, there's not much of an explorative manner in a three-dimensional world.
Yeah, the last thing, like what I wouldn't want to do is to give the wrong impression, then have people looking in every single corner and not just like experiencing it. And so I think the idea is to have a new game plus, and then like that's when you spend a little bit more time kind of looking for any little hidden things, but maybe a few things here and there, but nothing crazy. It should be a little fun, but don't ruin the experience by pixel hunting or anything like that.
I always Blues also says, inside Limbo, I played the story, and after that I will try to find like the hidden stuff, and first experience is always like story mode, and then after that we're gonna explore the game. So
they did a really good job with that too, where you didn't feel like you needed to search stuff out, but if you did, you found some stuff, which was really cool. So they did a really good job with that.
Well, whenever your game's been shown, it's usually been with a bunch of other indie games. Mm-hmm. And whenever they do that, there's always that. It's not just one. It's usually 2 or 3 games that really stand out. And I've just noticed yours has always stood out. So if you watch the after shows and other people, they immediately mention, Song of Fire. That's just, it. I don't want to say it pops, but when you see it, it's like, oh, that looks cool.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, the response has been amazing. I'm blown away still. Like, I don't totally understand it. I see the game as I create it. So like, I don't experience it in the same way. So having people like reaffirm what I'm not crazy is really wonderful.
Definitely not crazy.
I heard you were using, it just popped out of my head. I am so old. The engine you used for it.
Unreal. Yeah,
Unreal 4. So again, that gives it that way. Gorgeous.
Yeah,
better look than some of the other engines that are out there that a lot of indie games use.
Unreal's crazy powerful. It's perfect for what I'm doing too.
Yeah,
so
I don't understand why more indie gamers don't use it, because you still don't pay right unless you sell a certain amount. Is it like a million? If you sell a million of anything, you should be making money.
You should be making money, yeah.
Yeah,
you're doing something wrong.
You got to pay for that engine. Well, it's okay. I've made money. So
yeah, it's only, I think it's 5% or something like that. It's
yeah,
not a lot.
I hope more, with the success you're going to have on this, I hope more indie teams, and I say teams, you're a single guy, but usually it's a small team of people doing it.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, let's move away from this and go ahead and use the big boy engine.
I think more than you probably would guess are, but they're just still trying to do styles that are easy to do and clean and pop and stuff. And
I'm a sucker for anything that uses the 8-bit or especially 16-bit color graphics, because that is of my age. And I know people say, "Oh, I was raised on the Genesis and stuff," and I always laugh because it's like a 25-year-old or a 30-year-old saying that, and I'm like, no, you wasn't. I was alive and living back then, and was of adult age and buying these consoles and games.
Yeah.
So you might have played them, you're the emulator or on your whatever, but yeah, it's just a different. So there's a special love for that type of graphics, and they do so good on these modern systems of recreating that.
Yeah. Oh, it's awesome. And and then they can run them at 120 frames a second too, which makes it some butter smooth gameplay if they, on PCs at least. And
but with your game, there's a Song of Iron. It's not like you were trying to I don't think you were trying to go for that kind of look or anything. It just has it is what it is. I don't know what you even call that, style wise.
I kind of think of it as like a realism in a way. My concept starting was to, if Shadow or any of those like old side scrollers were moved forward with the visuals like they've done with a lot of the AAA games, like what would that be? And I figured because it's a controlled space, the camera, I can just smash a bunch of really, really high resolution textures and
it shows
models in there, great. And it definitely I think kind of stands out for that, which is exciting, which is really fun.
Nice. So one of the things we saw in the trailer, and I'll get to that because it's one of the ones that both me and Pat have mentioned both before this and in private chats, is the dragon.
Yeah,
well, I want to know more about the dragon, and I want to know more about what he's going to be more of in that game. What are we going to be seeing? More of? Is that going to be a mega boss? Is that going to be what is this?
I'm calling him a disaster right now. Like he's a natural disaster. You don't fight him, you have to survive him basically. There's just it's not a super long bit, but it's a chunk where you're in a point in the story and in the game in your journey that you need to get past, and he's there and he's not gonna want you to do that. And so it's a lot of it's a little bit of stealth mixed with fighting some more of the normal characters while not getting roasted alive by the dragon flying around.
Okay.
It's the closest to like in a big event of the game of like a lot of stuff's happening and you just got to kind of make it through. If that makes sense,
just try and survive.
Yeah,
it's a bit like the same that you have with Ori, the big bird that is following you and you need to try to escape in some kind of
that sort of thing. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying off air too. I mean, the head sat on the ground is about as tall as the character, so the dragon is just enormous. So there's no killing him. You just got to survive him, at least in this one.
Nice.
But he's fun. I've been having a lot of fun animating him. It's been good. But yeah, he'll be. I like him. I really like how he's turning out.
And of course, you added the bear recently.
Yeah, the bear,
the bear, who is more of a common threat, I'm guessing. But is the bear only a common threat in certain biomes then?
You'll fight him, I think, only one time actually.
Okay.
He'll probably see him in the background once or twice, just since that we've got him. But you'll do. My Reddit name is a bigger bear, and so everybody, I just felt like I needed to get a bear into the game, and so there is like a moment where you need to get into his cave, basically, and then he's there to stop you. But yeah, I think
Awesome.
because the game is meant to be more consumable as far as length goes, I'm going for that 2-3-ish hours. I want you to be able to sit down and get it off of your backlog and like have a good experience. You don't fight the same thing very much, which I think is really great because it's like this was the time that you fought this guy in his place, and now you move on to the next bunch of stuff, and it keeps the game fresh and doesn't feel like you fought the bear for the 5th or 6th time all of a sudden, and you just get it, and now he's just like he's an annoying character or whatever. So it's the same with the dragon. It's like this huge moment, but it's only so many minutes long, right? But it's like for that moment, for that time, it should be really good. And that's the hope with the shorter game too, is I can make the little things better and not try to like make it so they're drawn out or do more things a little bit worse, I guess.
Yeah. What would you say then when it comes to standard boss? Obviously, at the moment, you've got standard bosses as the trolls, which we fought, of course, in the demo as well. Are there any kind of larger boss fights outside of the trolls? And then, of course, the set pieces like the dragon or the bear, anything like that you've got in mind or that are already being developed?
Yeah, I do. There's the troll is the biggest. I think is the biggest guy you full on fight and kill. There's some smaller, not too much smaller, but smaller groups of characters that are pretty tough and fun. That are like a pretty high level boss type thing. And then more of it is like masses and then puzzle solving while continuing moving. The trailer, you see the character like running away from a ton of goblins chasing him down a hill. So I love like in Halo 1, the Warthog race at the end.
Yes.
Right? Like that's the boss of Halo 1 in a way. From a perspective, and I think that's a really good way to deal with that sort of stuff. It's like, now do this thing you're really good at, but do it way faster and better because you need to do it really quick. And I think that's a really good way.
You need to, or you die.
You need to, or you die. I love that as a way for bosses to be there. I think it can be very, I don't know, less fun to like break the way the game works to have a traditional boss fight. And then you have to relearn it. I don't know. It works obviously really well in some games, but
it really works with indies though. You've got to think, of course, games like Mojo mentioned, there's Little Nightmares, where there's quite a bit of the segment on running away from these people that are trying to kill you immediately.
Pretty intense, by the way.
Yeah, that crazy head like following him. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I think it's a really cool thing. So.
Awesome stuff. No, I'm really, really intrigued by kind of some of especially one of the things that I mentioned as soon as I seen the updated trailer before, of course, the ID showcase, was the ice biome. Now, obviously, the texture work that you've got in that snow biome is just phenomenal. How big is the snow biome in terms of an area to explore and play in? Is that quite a long segment again as well, or?
It's a decent chunk. It's probably 2 or 3 times the size of the full demo, I think, if I were to kind of make a shot in the dark.
Wow.
Yeah, you're basically making your way to the mountain, and then you have to go up the mountain, and the mountain's all snow and stuff. And that's where you find the dragon, obviously, because it's full snow ice bridge that you're running across or whatever. It's pretty cool. I think at that point you've got most of your magic and most of your gear and stuff, and so it kind of you're nearing that super power stage and everything. So yeah, it's pretty fun.
Awesome.
And then the fun stuff happens after that.
Then the fun stuff happens.
That's all you'll get out of me for that.
I was going to also ask then, is obviously we have spoken about this before, where you want to kind of stay away from dialogue per se in this particular game. Is there going to be any dialogue in this game planned?
Yes, there is a little bit. I think I think right now my entire script is under 1,000 words or something, which is
Okay, sweet.
very, very, very little, right? But there's, zero dialogue would have been good, but it helped. There's a lot going on in the world, and it helped to just kind of nudge a few things with a little bit. But it's going to be text on screen with voiceover, more like Zelda does, sort of that like initial little bit, and then text. And that's pure like indie. It's cheaper and easier to manage it that way. It'd be awesome to be fully voiced and stuff, but yeah, I'm just going with that. But yeah, it's just it's very short, just to give you the right kind of pushes in the right directions and stuff like that.
And have crucially then, when you have got dialogue in there, have you got the right feeling voice actor for that particular dialogue?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Yeah, I don't know yet. I'm still trying to figure that all out. I actually kind of built a stage in my closet, which is right on the other side of my computer here, so I could do some stuff at least a lot of the grunts and screams for the combatants, and my wife probably will do some for the female character, and but the actual voice stuff, we'll see. I haven't locked myself into that, but I've got a few buddies that are really are jonesing to do some screaming for the game too. So we'll see.
Awesome stuff. And the actual spoken lines, is that from the main character, or is it spoken lines from?
It'll be other people. Yeah, it'll be very Zelda in that where someone talks and then they kind of like ask a question and it's just ... and then they answer the question by responding by what they said, kind of thing. But again, it's so short. It's very, very little bit. But yeah, player doesn't talk. Makes life easier.
Yes.
How big is the game going to be? Are we looking at 8, 10, 12 hours, somewhere in that range?
No, way shorter. It's probably in the like 2 to 3 hour range, much like the inside and all those, and Journey and stuff. I both, because I'm on my own and I'd rather make a few things good than a bunch of things okay. And I think everybody if likes the big games, but also everybody talks about how their backlog is full. And I figure if I give you something you can play in a night and hopefully really like it, and then think about it, when you're playing your other game the next night, then I think that's a total success. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Again, one of the games that I've been playing very recently, and you've probably seen me mention it, was that very recently released Narita Boy. That's you would, if you haven't had a chance to play that yet, Joe, you will love that game. That's also
awesome. I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's again graphically, it's very much like what's that with that game? It was Neon something or other.
Neon Abyss.
Yes, Neon Abyss. Graphically, pretty much identical to that. Cool. But the combat is smooth. Again, it's like a platformer combat, retro 80s style game, all pixel. Cool little story behind it, but the platforming and the combat in that is very swift as well. And again, that's not a massive game. That's relatively. I mean, I've maybe put a couple of hours into it so far, and I'm probably about a third of the way through. So I think maybe it's about a 5-6 hour game tops. Cool. So if I really wanted to, I could have pressed through and finished it in one go. And I know one of my viewers has played on the back of me tweeting about it and mentioning it, has played it already, which is I was like, oh, that was quick. You've done it quicker than I have. But no, that's again perfect when it comes to indie titles. Again, as we know, and as has been mentioned a lot in the ID showcase as well, so the range, and I think a lot of people kind of seem to forget indie is a very large group of developing studios. It can range from one man all the way through to 14 or 100. Just because indie is there doesn't necessarily mean they don't have funds.
Yeah, it's a tough classification. Basically, it's like everybody except for AAA, kind of. But it's
basically everybody that isn't part of a large corporation.
Right.
Unfortunately, the big publishers quit doing like AA type games, and the indies have had to fill that void by making even bigger and bigger type games.
Yeah,
because there is a void that's missing that AA.
Yeah, totally.
The one thing I like about kind of the way Xbox are doing it, though, is that ID at Xbox is kind of giving a much bigger platform to indies than a lot of other places. And again, especially on one of the positives that came out of ID at Xbox's showcase was the fact that they were telling people, like, if not prompting people, listen, if you've got an idea, if you want to kind of make a game, if you're not sure where to start, sign up to ID at Xbox. We'll send you what kit you need, and then if you need that support's there for you. It is a simple 2-minute step, and we encourage you to start developing.
Yeah.
And that's something that should be praised. That a lot of people might not have picked up on. I'm not sure, is that they are encouraging independent developers to get in and get more games generated, to get into that platform, so that Xbox can bring a spotlight to it. Obviously, you've worked with ID at Xbox now for a little while, and we have covered this before, but especially since the change from working at 343 alongside Song of Iron, how have the ID at Xbox team been to yourself since that change? Have they kind of doubled down on helping you more if needs be, or is there anything else that they've done to kind of help streamline that transition?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's been pretty much the same. You know, it was really important to keep the two things separate. Like my employment at 343 and then Joe, the Song of Iron developer, were two completely separate things. It's the same, like the deal didn't happen because I worked there. They had to be very separate, and it's really important from all that sort of like legally stuff. But they, we already had like a great thing set up, and so that's another one of the many kind of like things that made me feel comfortable leaving the position and stuff. And I mean, I was in this show, which is always a very helpful thing to be a part of, and and a lot of people can get to see the game that haven't seen it before because it's so hard to get stuff out there. And hopefully more and more stuff happens as it gets closer and closer to launch. But yeah, they're just awesome and super supportive basically all the time. So
yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And one of these days, you never know, obviously, when they eventually get back to doing physical in-person showcases, then you'll even have an opportunity, hopefully, to have your game at a physical ID at Xbox showcase.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah,
I don't know if I'm supposed to ask you things like this or not, but are you in talks with PlayStation or Switch?
Seems
like Switch would be a perfect fit also.
Yeah, a lot of Switch fans have asked me about that for sure. Right now for launch, it's going to be Xbox and PC through Steam. The part of my deal with Xbox is exclusivity for the time being, which is great for me, honestly. Otherwise, it would have just been PC and gotten far less attention and stuff. But obviously, I'm a general gamer, and so I'd love to see it like on all those systems. I mean, that's like beyond what it means for sales or whatever. It's just it's such an amazing kind of achievement for myself and a great goal. But for launch, all I can handle, and it's already a handful, is the two platforms.
No, actually, that's excellent. I like hearing that because I don't like it when somebody does a game and they're like, for whatever reason, just exclusive for whatever reason to one system, and then it never changes. At least you've got it, as long as it's for a set time and it can move on to another system, depending on the popularity of the game. But
yeah, it'll all depend on how well it does.
Yeah,
if I can scope up.
Well, Xbox was great. Like with Cuphead, they didn't have any problem letting Cuphead go on to Switch.
It's all the unromantic stuff. Is it's all deals in the back, and people they pay for a certain amount of things or whatever it is. But
most definitely. And I mean, obviously, this might be a question that you haven't been asked yet, then. But how were 343 when you said, I'm stepping back. I'm disappearing.
Oh, I mean, they're great. Everybody was, I couldn't really talk about it at work, but everybody knew. I mean, outside of work, it's all over my social media stuff, and so a lot of people knew, and it was all really positive. I think most people in the game industry dream of doing their own thing or running off to start their own studio or whatever it is, and And so everybody understands and was super excited for me and everything, and have been supporting me still, following and retweeting and stuff. So really good.
So if Halo Infinite fails, we can blame you.
Well, no, not anymore. Not anymore. You can't.
But, well, no, I'm saying because you're not there anymore, so you're not.
Yeah.
I'm
guessing that it must.
Angle I was looking at.
I was going to say as well. It must have got to a stage though when you were working with 343 where you thought, right, they're pretty much in the final stretch here, and this is probably the best chance I'm going to get to be able to step back and do my own thing. Yeah,
I mean, without saying too much, I kind of was trying to get to a place like that at least, and so I got as close as I could to. It's always hard to leave at a good time because there's always something, but I gave him a ton of warning, especially my direct manager and stuff, and so we were able to make a really smooth transition for everybody.
Sweet. Sweet, of course. And you've got obviously the busy periods of something like that is doing a handover process to whoever's then taking over whatever role you had.
There was like a previous lead of a different department that had come over to join my team, and so we just sort of moved him up into my role, and so it was
some things across.
The animation team was like a really good group of people, and to the point where a lot of us were friends and stuff, and so it's just a peaceful transition of power, if you will. But yeah.
And dare I ask then, because a lot of people will be asking if they haven't already asked about. I don't know whether or not we asked this question on stream or just before we started, but working on the enemy characters of Halo Infinite, the animation side of things, did you work on Craig?
On Craig? I mean, of course I did a little bit. Yeah. I mean, I worked on. I did a lot of stuff on the brutes and a lot of that, and yeah, I mean, Craig is legend now. I'd hate to ruin the legend by saying too much about it, but yeah, it was the worst snapshot you could possibly take in a bad moment. But,
they turned it around. He's now. I mean, people are.
He's a legend now.
He's got a big part in the game.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, so it's that was amazing how they turned around a negative and turned it into such a huge positive.
Yeah, they were smart. They played that well. But yeah, I mean, I did a bunch of stuff on the brutes, but I mean, because I became a lead, I did a lot more. I don't want to say directing, but like kind of nudging people in directions, and a lot less of the actual animation work. But
it's quite clear then. Of course, is there a massive difference? And you'll know now from working on two different systems, but is there a massive difference from working on 343 Slipspace engine to working on the Unreal?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it's not only because they're just so different, and then my skill sets are different, and like where my involvement is different. Slipspace is an engine built for Halo, and so everything is made to make Halo stuff, and it's not meant to like go outside of Halo just because there's no reason to.
Yeah.
Right. Which makes sense. I mean, why invest in code to make, I don't know, an JRPG or something? Like, you don't need that in there. But Unreal just, you can get lost in it because it can do anything. But it's made to be super user friendly, so it has all these other bonuses and stuff. But they're different. Like Photoshop and Premiere are different. They both work, but they just are different.
Yeah, I can imagine. So what is and obviously working on Slipspace engine by itself. Of course we know that was Slipspace as an engine anyway for 343 has been, it's more, when they announced it, it's more of a refinement of an engine that they'd already had previously on Halo 5. And obviously then spent a lot of money with R&D getting that engine up to scratch and things like that. So what is it that makes this new Slipspace engine so good that they've spent so much money on? Can you discuss that? Is there something inside of it that is that great? Does it have built-in, obviously, features for things like, obviously, ray tracing and additional effects and lighting? And
yeah, I probably shouldn't say anything. I'm gonna play it safe, and I'm gonna surrender to that. I there's answers, but I don't know.
Not sure if you're allowed to talk about them.
Yeah, I don't want to.
Awesome
take a
stuff.
step too far. Yeah.
No, that's all right. To be fair, one of the things that it's obvious though is that you've brought a lot of your animation knowledge through to developing your own game, especially when you see kind of that final part there, which is kind of a fan favorite with the axe throwing and bringing it back. So when that was kind of announced there, and that trailer was shown off for the first time, and did you go back and watch a lot of people watch just at least that section over and over again and see what the reactions are of the axe getting brought back?
Yeah, I was jumping around through streams afterwards and replaying the trailer and watching the comments and stuff flow. It's pretty fun. Yeah, that moment, it doesn't feel like a normal ending to a trailer to me. Like I was looking for a big hit or something, and it just sort of accidentally worked out, and I thought this works really great. This is super fun. So
it's more like a cool ending, a cool guy ending, basically.
Yeah, very swag, a lot of swag in that. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And where is it then? Because I think somebody asked as well what your influence was on getting that bring back. Was it the likes of God of War that you thought that was cool? Swing back.
Yeah.
Next? Or was it something else before that?
It's it's a mix. I think it's hard to not have been inspired by God of War and like knowing that worked really well for them. But it probably came more from Thor, like just the traditional Thor concept that he has Mjolnir and it can come back to him, and then also in the D&D campaign where a lot of the story for the game comes from, we had items that were like letting us do that, and so it's all a bunch of these little things, and then God of War made it an easy yes because I knew that it worked really well. In fact, like I kept going back and forth, was like worrying that it was too similar and it would feel like a copy, and it wasn't really the start of the idea, so it kind of that made me feel a little bit better, but no one really knows. Everyone will just see God of War in it, which is okay. It's all over Nordic legend, right, and stuff.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Have you considered then? Obviously, now you've got the axe and the bow and arrow and swords and heavy swords. Have you considered then putting warhammers in there?
Yeah, I definitely am. I'm trying. There's a few systems that I'd have to make sure would work, and but otherwise, there's no reason not to. Because it'd be fun, definitely.
Yeah, and it's obviously a bit more of a lumbering thing, so it's getting kind of the weight behind them down right as well, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So at Unreal, are those backgrounds, are those completely separate layers? Because back in the old days, they had like the parallax scrolling, and
right.
And then originally with like 3D games, it was just a background and then the 3D part where that's why stuff would always get stuck and cameras didn't work right.
Yeah,
it has a beautiful 3D look to it. And
it's a fully built out world that goes far into the background.
It's one big.
Yeah. If the camera let you, you could turn left and run off into the distance, and it would still be there and work and stuff. I did that to make it feel as real as possible and get, infinite parallax basically, because it is just an actual thing. Yeah. And then you get the lighting works really well. Yeah. Thanks.
And then I like the fact that it's an action game. You're not just being chased by something. You actually get to fight. And so, yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. You fight, you run, you sneak. Yeah. There's a whole bunch of stuff like that.
Was it? And obviously, this is some of the animation stuff that you'd done before that. But was it very difficult getting the character, especially when it's a full 3D world, as it were? How would you go about then only having them on, should we say, a track, which is kind of a little slither of this huge open space?
Yeah, honestly, it's not that hard. The engine basically has a setting that says like restrict to axis, and then so you can't leave forward or backwards. It makes all the math easier for like shooting arrows and all that sort of stuff. I just snap them to 0 and fire them in the direction and all that kind of stuff, and it really makes it that much cleaner from a certain point of view, I guess.
Yeah,
it's not bad. I mean, the system's built for that stuff, so it's all there to help me.
Awesome. And of course, you alluded to earlier on booms, and I know we've spoke about before as well, but you do hope to have more of this game in the future, and of course you've got the story to go with it. So obviously we don't know the conclusion of this game. We haven't played the full game yet. We don't know where the story leads, etc. But following that little interview, we know that it was heavily, at least the game story was heavily inspired by D&D.
Yeah,
is that a D&D campaign that you originally played with your friends, and you come up with a particular story, and it's that story you're now playing out through this game?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I normally run the games. I'm usually the DM, but I had a buddy. I wanted to play, and so a buddy took over for a short game, and I came up with this kind of crazy character, and he went along with it, and basically I'm using that story for the game, and then for the follow-up. It's changed a decent chunk, but the core of it's the same. And it was really fun in the D&D thing, and it's a bit of a shocker, I think, and so hopefully that comes across in this. And then, if everything goes well, I can finish. There's definitely more to it than just this game has. This game just gets you to the discovery, and then hopefully more games can come that'll fill it all in.
Well, again, I don't see why not. The game has a lot of legs. It's the great thing about the world that you've designed in it as well is that you've got so much more lore and mythos and everything that goes along with creating a game in Viking style. Yeah. I mean, it's always funny when I watch this. The original Ragdoll momentum.
Yeah, looks like you, Dutch.
Old drunken Viking version 1.
Yeah. Again, obviously, when you're going through the development sections of this game and doing kind of the environments as well, what are your influences when it comes to that? Of course, is there a set country and things that you look at to kind of do the design and the environmental work? Do you do research based on photographs? Do you do research based on videos? Is it particular stories or TV programs? Where is the kind of influences from on most of this? Is a particular country you look at and go model it around this?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I always like to look at references, and I wouldn't say I'm trying to hit a perfect Sweden or Norway or anything like that, but I definitely am influenced by it. But at the same time, I'm influenced by shots from Lord of the Rings or some of those kind of grand movies that sort of are from everywhere in some ways. And in the end, I just wanted it should feel hopefully really in the Nordic kind of region of things, but it's not necessarily meant to stick to it super hard. And so I let myself just create it sometimes and let it be whatever it kind of turns into. Because I think that adds a little bit of sort of an alien feel. Maybe not alien's the wrong word, but maybe a little bit of this doesn't quite match what I expected. And I think that can be a good thing for the game.
And obviously, since most definitely, and since because I noticed it anyway, even in the original demo, the light was really good, especially when you've got things like this in the darker areas with the campfire, and you see all the different shadows and things that walk past, and onto the rock, and then the shadow of the character going onto the rock. So the real-time shadows was really nice to see, but also kind of I know personally that you've been working a lot on the lighting and things like that since that demo was released, to kind of just increase it even more. So what can we expect to kind of see in the full game in terms of lighting, etc., improvements over the demo that we originally kind of played?
I think in general the demo it's pretty accurate. It's just it'll be quality will have improved. I think my understanding of some of those lights will have gotten a bit better. But what the demo is all pretty much at night in dark spaces, and the game does have more legs than that. There's a lot of dawn and dusk forest scenes, and which I think I really like kind of the ones that's showing up right now. This sort of half lit areas, and I really, really like those. I think those hit the mood really well. And then the snow blind white scenes and stuff, those outdoors, and then we've got caves, and it's just I kind of try to do the gamut. And there's some other fun stuff kind of hidden in there too, but hopefully it's just gotten a little bit better, and then and then I just want it to run really well. So I'm not trying to go too crazy. Otherwise I'll slow it down.
Will there be any kind of sunset games in there then?
Yeah, there's a few moments where
sunset where
there's a few moments where you're getting it's not time of day necessarily, but it will transition in a few places where you'll see the sun rising and hitting like the mountain and get it going all red and stuff. And that should be pretty cool.
I'll bet a lot of people are gonna take screenshots.
I hope so. Yeah, that'd be great.
Definitely. Most definitely. Is there any further development style questions from either Mojo or Pat? Anything you want to know about the development of this game?
Man, I don't know.
Any plans for what's next after this game? Kind of like pitching out something.
Yeah, I definitely. When I was sort of writing the story out, I really wrote it in 3 parts. And a huge part of cutting it up was so that I could have a scope that's reasonable. So assuming this does well, which, I'm hopeful for based on, response and stuff, there should be a couple more games coming. Definitely have the opportunity to expand the world.
Excellent.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm really excited for people to finish this game because there's so much to talk about with it, and we can't say anything about it. It'll ruin it so badly. But I just can't wait to hear responses because it's all about that and where that takes everything. So yeah,
awesome.
Just the endless tease, I guess. I apologize.
Have you got a good understanding then so far of engagement numbers based on that original demo on Steam and Xbox of how many downloaded it and how many played it? Do you know, kind of get a rough idea as to what you're expecting in terms of output?
Yeah, a little bit. Like there's all sorts of numbers all over about how things convert and how well, wish lists convert into sales and all that kind of stuff. And I don't think I can talk about that. I can't talk about Xbox numbers, but it was a really nice chunk. Like I was really surprised how many people from Xbox played. Being on the store front page for like a couple hours definitely helped with that. But I just crossed over 37,000 wish lists, which is really really good. It's and without a release date out or anything like that yet, I'm really happy with that.
I think what's really awesome about that is the fact that Steam is so huge. Mm-hmm. Like the database of indie games on Steam by itself is massive in the first place. So 37,000 as well on Steam, and again in such a large marketplace.
yeah, it's super lucky to have that. And the hope, of course, like with anything, is that day one, week one, that people really show up from those lists and help. The best way to support is to buy early, kind of thing, and then the algorithm takes over and does all the hard work for me, hopefully. But
yeah. Well, one thing I've spoke to you about that I'll mention now is on the run up to launch, and obviously to celebrate the launch of Song of Iron, Midweek Mixup will be giving away 3 copies of Song of Iron on the channel. So obviously, if you want to win a copy of Song of Iron, then of course tune in, and we'll have Joe on close to launch, and we'll let himself announce those winners.
Yeah, hey, cool. Sounds good. I'm down to that. Yeah, that'll be fun.
But yeah, definitely show support for the game itself. It's phenomenal just to see how far it's coming on, and everything you keep showing off. It's more intriguing, especially with the new enemies and things like that. But there you go. That's a nice showcase there. But no, it's absolutely awesome. Go on.
The last trailer that we saw, like the music, is there like a team behind it, or did you like choose music from the internet, or I don't know? Like,
yeah, that's the one place that I am getting help from that I decided it would be way better if I reached out and got some help is the sound. So I have a composer composing a a soundtrack just for the game. So that's
Nice.
an original, that's original piece just for Song of Iron, and he's doing a bunch of really cool stuff. And then sound design too. There's a group helping me with that stuff. Because that's I do not have an ear for that stuff. You don't want to hear me singing or playing an instrument. It would all be really bad. And I think the game needs that because it's such a mood centric game. It really needs its own stuff. And so that was one of the things that I really went after. And he's been making amazing stuff. I'm so excited for the soundtrack. I think the trailer is one of my favorites. I think that gets me amped up watching it because of the music, and I'm ready to go into battle or whatever. But it's cool. So, and he's doing the vocals in that too, which is awesome. So he's singing and everything. Yeah.
From what I remember as well, he kind of came to you, didn't he, and said, "Can I do the track?" Is that right?
Yeah, he had reached out and he had sent me basically like a test track to go on top of something I had shown off, and it just sounded really awesome. And that the thing he sent me turned into the music for that first trailer with some tweaks and stuff. So yeah, it was really cool. And we just recently bought a Taglaharpa for him to use to work on all of it, which is a really sort of classic Nordic string instrument that the second you hear it, you recognize it as that sort of sound, and it's done so much good stuff for the soundtrack. It's really fun. So he's teaching himself how to play it and everything, and it's really awesome.
How to play a new instrument just for this.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's so exciting. I mean, that's the thing. I get to experience that for the first time as part of the game, which is awesome because otherwise it's all, I know every little bit, and so the music really, it's so fun.
No, that's absolutely awesome to hear. I mean, one of the things that you have to get right, especially when you create a game like that, is the music that goes along with it. And of course, one of the greatest bits of feedback you've had so far is about the music and how fitting it is for the game.
Yeah.
So that must be really, I would say, humbling to hear about as well. Is the feedback you've got from that?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, people identify it the right way. So again, it's another one of those, like, I'm not crazy. Like, I keep pushing a certain direction, and when they respond to it, it feels really good.
Oh. Yeah, it's awesome. Like you said, you got amped up, like if you hear the music, it's so intense, and you're ready for battle. So that's
exactly.
pretty awesome. It's a really, really nice soundtrack. Oh.
Yeah, thanks. I'm excited.
Was it relatively hard getting the sound effects down then for things like weaponry and clashing of armor and clashing of ironwork on shields and things like that? How much of a difference was that?
It's definitely making a big difference. It's not that hard. The sort of design I'm after is a pretty simple one. Like, I want whatever's the most important thing to be the sound that stands out, and everything else should kind of fade in the background. So there's actually not a whole ton of sound effects going on, but the stuff that's really important should stand out and feel really clean and understandable and stuff. And I think that actually makes things feel more realistic, because you can't listen to 1,000 things at once. Your ears naturally will tune into what it thinks is most important. And so I'm trying to kind of replicate that, but just forcing you to listen to what I think is most important instead of letting your ear try to decipher it. And
are stuff like that available within Unreal Engine 4, or are you having to create those sound effects and record them yourself?
Yeah, we're building the sound effects. I'm sure some of them are coming from some libraries and whatnot, but a lot of them are being built for the game. And then we're using Fmod, which is a plugin that does a really good job balancing sounds and stuff. Unreal has a sound engine inside of it also, but this is one that the sound guys really like, so we're using that.
Awesome stuff. And I know, of course, the original kind of release window that you hoped for was kind of the June, July area. How's that sitting so far?
Yeah, it's going pretty good. I think it's probably like pushing a little bit past, but it's hard to say. Like right now, I'm on a good pace that I like, but once I get into all the porting and all of the achievements and all these like little things that are kind of secondary to the core development, I expect to get slowed down a little bit because it's all new, and then you got to make sure it hooks up to the system and make sure all these little these little things are working, and that stuff can always kind of be a bit of head against the wall kind of stuff, just because you don't know and you got to work within some constraints and stuff. But I really do expect, minus any catastrophe, the game should be out by the end of summer at the latest. It shouldn't be any longer than that.
Awesome stuff. Yeah. Awesome stuff. Of course, unfortunately, not spring 2021 anymore.
Yeah, it's slipped a little. What is spring?
Summer may
really
be better anyway, depending on how many other games are dropping around it. And you definitely want to get it done before the fall because it'll get lost with all the big AAA
big drops.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that's a little bit of a lull for everybody while everybody waits for the big ones to come.
From mid-July all the way through to early September is usually a pretty good time to drop a game.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. I think that'll work good.
Awesome stuff. And that's where we will wrap up the conversation on the development process and get into more nitty-gritty gaming, and obviously get Joe involved in this for a change. Instead of just talking about himself all the time, and I know he does, as much as he loves talking about Song of Iron, you also love gaming. So we will get into it. Of course, one of the first topics we will do is we will cover off the best parts of the Idea Xbox showcase. And what kind of games stood out to us that we do want to see more of. And first of all, I will put that question through to Joe. Haven't had a chance of seeing the games that did, because obviously not only were you sitting there kind of anxiously waiting for the reactions to your stream and your section, but you were obviously tuning in to see all of the other indies show off their stuff for the first time. And there was quite a lot of new games going in there as well, things that we already knew of that we wanted to see more of. So what titles really stood out to you then, even from a different perspective, because you're not only a gamer, but you're a developer yourself. Of course, we see these things just as a gamer and a content creator, so it's a bit different. So to you, what stood out in that?
Honestly, I think we've seen a lot of the footage from it, but the Ascent trailer or kind of show, I really like that. I think that game looks so gorgeous. I think they're pushing a very similar line that I'm pushing, and just trying to make what's traditionally a lower graphical quality type of game into a really high fidelity game. And I think they're doing it. I mean, those explosions and those effects are just gorgeous. Even my wife, who's not a gamer and just sort of getting more and more into it, slowly catching up on the historic stuff and moving her way forward, she was like, "This looks really cool." And I'm like, "Are you really? Awesome. Let's do it. Yeah, we can do it together." So I was super excited about that one. It was awesome to hear too that I'm going to get the name wrong. The rally car indie game that came out recently.
Art of Rally.
Thank you. Art of Rally is coming to Xbox. I think that's super cool. I really like that on PC. I bet that's amazing on sitting down at the TV and playing. So I was really excited about that. Stalker 2, I wish they'd shown more gameplay. I mean, it was cool to see all that art stuff because, it shows how hard they're working on making the game look really good. But you always, to me, that stuff always stands out as I'd rather see gameplay than how beautiful the guns are or whatever. And then it was funny because this is maybe a little cheeky, but when they showed all the teeth options, that all the people in Unreal are like, "What are you doing?" Because that was an Unreal window in there, and it was like, "You're doing it like that? That's crazy." Why would you do it that way?
It's just insane.
It's crazy.
Everyone was like, "Really? This much detail going into teeth?"
It's so crazy. I mean, we'll see how the game works and how close you get, but that's one of those things. I hope it's worth it because obviously it looked awesome, but look at even the best game now. How much can you tell about any character's teeth? It's pretty rare. So good luck to them, I guess. But I mean, that said, what they showed, I mean, obviously it all looked really good. So I'm really interested in indie games like them, just totally pushing kind of the envelope of quality and stuff like that. So I'm here for it, regardless if it feels like it's over the top or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. Yeah, but Ascent, I'm super excited about Ascent. Really.
Yeah, I mean, who isn't?
Yeah, right. I know it's the easy answer, but it's the one that's like sticks out so much.
And they're so coy on social media at the moment as well. They're just like, we could give you a release date, but no. No, we're not going to do that. We'll just
I know about that. I feel that.
I mean, that again, it's one of them things where everything looks so super polished, and you feel like it's so, especially from an outside look, it looks like it's just ready to go. But in house, like it's a little bit different. You're like, no, there's so much more I need to do.
I know. Yeah, and it's so easy to see what's not working or what's broken or whatever. It's good to get people to respond because it helps a lot.
Oh, most definitely. And is it, other than the Ascent, then, is there any specific games then that really, really stood out to you? You mentioned not Sega Rally, Art of Rally. Tunic was one that really stands out to me. We didn't again see too much of that.
Yeah, it's sort of like most of them are games that we've known about, and I just love seeing more from them, and I can't wait for them. I mean, I'm really interested in 12 minutes because it's such a new format. I don't know if I'm going to like it or not, but I'm interested in what he's after. So
Intrigued.
I definitely will. Yeah, exactly. And then I'm going to forget this name too. Exo something, the like
Exo
little alien ball. Yeah. I cannot wait to play that. I'm so excited to play that. I mean, that just feels like a weird thing that will just be fun always.
That one, Exo 1.
Yeah,
sorry.
there it is, Exo 1. Yeah. I'm really excited.
Weird floating disc.
Yeah, I mean, that's perfect. Like it just reminds me of like Journey or any of these games where you just sort of do what you want and you zone out and you can't fail. That's what I'm expecting, but really look forward to it. There's so much good stuff. I don't know how to play all this stuff. Tunic, got to play Tunic.
You're right. It's just there is so much, and there you go. There's your title there again on the showcase.
Yeah.
But even then, looking at games like Shredders, like that does not look like an indie title.
No, I mean, yeah, you go back a few years and that's a full AAA EA release or something, right?
Yeah, most definitely. There's another one there, Sable. That looks awesome as well.
And then the last one, I don't know if it was in the show or not. Maybe I missed it. Is The Little Devil Inside. I've been following that for what feels like 30 years, waiting for that to come out.
I don't know whether or not that was in the show.
I don't know if it was in the show though. I don't. That might even be like a Sony exclusive. I don't know, but I want to play that game really bad.
Well, to be fair, that's a good one to shout out. If people weren't aware, actually, you won't be aware. I'll make the announcement kind of near the end, but we have got a little project in the work that does involve indie titles, and The Little Devil Inside I've not seen yet, so I'm going to have a look at that myself to see what that is about.
Yeah, I call it Little Witch in the Woods. I don't remember Little Devil.
Yeah, Little Devil Inside. It's it looks so good. It looks so cool. Definitely check that out.
Whilst we've got that open, we may as well have a look at that right now.
Yeah.
Well, the format of the show kind of really hurt because, I mean, I was actually there live on the show doing it, and we only lasted about 2 hours, and we just said we're done.
It was we were nearly 3 hours, and we were the same. Unfortunately, it was the format. It wasn't the games because we really loved the games that they showed.
There was so much good stuff. Narita Boy and God, I can't. Yeah, you have to start coming off the top of my head. Edge of Eternity was one I thought had a good look. Yeah, there's a ton of stuff, but everything was so spread out, and a lot of developers being interviewed, which is fine. I actually like developer interviews. I just tend to like them after the show. I would rather have it be game, than do the interviews.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, it wasn't just that. It was we appreciate, of course, because we try to do it as well, is give as much time as possible to developers and get developers on. And we know how hard it is for indie developers to get the time to come on to things like this as well, especially in the middle of development processes. And of course, I speak to other studios as well that have more people than just Joe sitting by himself developing his game. But other games like Minimal Effect, I don't know if anybody's actually seen that or remember seeing that game. Have you seen that one, Joe?
I don't think so. Minimal effect.
I'm going to put it on just for entertainment purposes. Imagine Mass Effect mixed with a Futurama.
All right.
Remember, Astra Ascending looked really good.
Yeah, Astro Ascending really looked good.
Yeah.
So this is minimal effect. This is again another game that's coming out later this year. That's definitely piqued my interest. And it's one of them silly games. It was like really daft humor.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's also, especially when you see it actually kind of in play, when I do believe they show kind of some of the gameplay on this as well. It's a shooter, as opposed to so it is more like a Mass Effect, but in this weird kind of Futurama-esque.
Yeah, Futurama, Rick and Morty kind of thing going on.
Yeah. But again, it's these types of games, because I was asking them as well whether or not are you going to be in the Idea Xbox show, and it was like, no, we've still got a little while till we can show off a little bit more of the game, which is fair enough. But again, understand this. It's so hard. There we go.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, it looks very Mass Effect. That's cool though. That's awesome.
But these are the types of games as well that I love seeing, because it's entirely unexpected, especially from an independent developer, and what they can create these days in the games and the art styles they can come up with. For yourself, kind of seeing, do you take a lot of kind of notes and keys from other developers on what you do as well when you develop a new game? Do you kind of see what they're doing and go, that could be interesting?
Yeah, I try not to seek stuff out from them, but I mean, anything I've played is going to have an influence on me. You know, there's all these little subtle things like, Journey did this thing really well, I think, then I'll go back and look at it. Or, you know, it's colored my taste. And so that ends up going into the game in some way or another. But I do try not to, you know, ask, how did they do this thing that I'm struggling with? I'm going to go and try to take it or something, which is fine too. I mean, you know, that's how it works. We learn from each other, but yeah, it happens. You know, everybody's looking at each other's stuff, and even the AAA studios. You know, when anybody announces something, everybody's crowding around computers that day, and like, why can't we do this thing or that thing, or like, you know, getting really excited about new tech and all that. So,
most definitely.
Yeah,
most definitely. And obviously, we have touched on kind of some of your favorites from the show, what you've seen. Mojo, obviously, aside from we've covered the fact that the actual format of the show did hurt it a little bit. What are the kind of positives that you took out of that show? Of course, you mentioned
the sheer amount of games. I mean, leading up to the show, I had heard as many as 100 games, but I think it ended up being like 60.
Yeah,
but so there was so much, and a lot of great games, and so hopefully over the next few months and throughout the rest of the year, as stuff get released, they'll find their time to shine, so to speak. But the art styles, I really love how a lot of the independent games will go for that really over stylized art style that just, you know, so their game really stands out. And there was a lot of that in that show. You mentioned one, Joe, Art of Rally was just, that thing just looks amazing. I know it's already been out, right? It's been out on PC for a little bit, but it's great. It's coming to console. But your game also had that, I don't want to even call that stylized art, but it has a pop to it, a look that's just really nice. And there was just so many throughout that show. I'm old school. I go back. I like shumps or shoot 'em ups, whatever you want to call them. Bullet hell. Now you got different games, but that genre from back in the day. So as a designer or whatever, what's your favorite game genre or whatever from any period of time or whatever, any consoles?
It's a tough one. I mean,
you worked on Halo, so I'm assuming you've loved that.
Yeah, you know, I love a good shooter. You know, I jump around. I like competitive games. I guess would be like the best way to say it. Is anything where I can be like highly competitive, I really enjoy. I played a bunch of Rocket League now. It's sort of a relaxing game, but it's as close to a sport as you can get. It's all acrobatics and stuff. I played a lot of League of Legends. That's just fun and hard. And I played a ton of Battlegrounds, in that first year and a half at launch. I played so much of it. I got way too good for my age. Is the way I think of it. And then I can't go back now. I'm way too bad, and it's changed too much. And they won't let me pick my map, so I can just play that map over and over again anymore. So I don't want to play.
What map is your favorite on Battlegrounds then?
It was the original one. I just
right, okay.
Yeah, it was I played a lot of DayZ before, and so that was the closest to DayZ, and I just loved it. I mean, I hit 74th in North America in duos, like in that kind of early 6 months or something.
Nice.
So serious PUBG player then.
Yeah, me and my buddy went super hard. I mean, we just played all day, every day for a while, and but it was that DayZ mentality.
Sounds like Pat. He's like serious PUBG guy.
I think I spend like almost 2,000 hours now in the game.
Yeah,
something like that. So it's crazy.
I don't want to look. I that too. Yeah. It was that DayZ training though. It's just like learn how to hide. Winning is all that matters. Just don't die.
Yeah.
But I love any game that's competitive and removes too much randomness. I'm all for it. I really like it.
Awesome stuff.
Nice.
No, it's again, we mentioned kind of having worked on Halo. Do you get kind of a little bit burnt out playing shooters then after having worked on what is essentially kind of a first-person shooter for a long time?
No, I don't think so. I enjoy them a lot still. It's easier for me to be really critical of them, and so I can like hurt my enjoyment if I think about it too much, because I become very critical about them. But the good ones then stand out that much more, because it's like I knew this would work really well, whatever thing it is, and then like this game's doing it, and so I get really excited for that game. And I'll
you care whether it's third person or first person? Because me, I'm more of a third person guy. It's not that I won't play a first person shooter; they're fine, but I just prefer third. So I'm basically more of a Gears guy than a Halo guy.
Yeah, third is easier, like on the eye, kind of a little bit in the tracking and stuff, but it really depends on the game. DayZ, I love playing first person because it made it such a scary, freaky experience because you're so isolated in that. But PUBG, I would have played first person servers more if they had started with them, but since they kind of didn't, I got so used to the third person, I just sort of stuck with it. It just depends.
Awesome stuff. No, it's one of the things I love especially about PUBG is that on as the third, well, you can have third or first person, but the third person option, of course, you get a bigger scope of things, and you can see things a lot better. As soon as you put that in the first person, it's an entirely different game. Makes it so much harder to see and everything. But you understand everyone's in the same position.
Yeah, the peeker's advantage, right, is the issue with the third person stuff. Yeah, exactly. I know where you are. You can't see me. So yeah, if there was a better way to deal with that, that'd be great.
So what game? Obviously, if you haven't went into PUBG then since you can't fix one map.
Yeah. There's a few things.
What game's taken over then on your shooter wall?
I haven't gone too hardcore into any of them since then. We've tried Call of Duty's version, and I played Apex a little bit, but I think to me they're all missing the thing that made PUBG really good, like with being able to revive people, and it's too fast. Like if anything, I want PUBG to be slower on bigger maps with more people. I want it to go that direction, not the hyper direction. It's fine to go both. Like there's a place for both of them, but like DayZ, man, the closer to DayZ we can get, the happier I'll be. But I haven't like hardcore played a shooter kind of since then.
Was you a PUBG player on PC or when it came out on Xbox? Because like with Xbox, it filled like a hole they had, because they didn't have many games that year, and by dropping it when they did, it ended up being a pretty huge hit for them to have. And then kind of like your game, they had an exclusive deal for quite a while there, and it really did fill a much needed, not necessarily a genre of a game, but they just needed something at that time, and it kind of worked out really well.
Yeah, I played mobile, I think like 3 or 4 games. I won 2 of them. Like, it shouldn't have worked out like that, but I was like, well, I'm just going to call myself the champion of mobile PUBG and walk away from this with my 2 out of 3 wins. And yeah, that was great.
That game's went absolutely bonkers on mobile now. Like,
it's like the second best-selling game in the world or something crazy.
But you know, like for me, they little bit ruined PUBG Mobile because it looks way too much like Fortnite with all the college skins and that kind of things, you know. So I played it also in the beginning a lot, really a lot. Even my girlfriend played with me, so that's how crazy it went. But yeah, like I said, for me they ruined the mobile version, and yeah, I'm still loving the Xbox version. Every time it gets me hyped up when I'm at the last 10. And
it's been a long time since I've played the Xbox version as well, to be fair. A long
top
time.
10, the adrenaline of top 10, man. That's a drug to chase forever, right?
Yeah.
It is incomparable. Like you mentioned before, Joe, there isn't, like, I did the same as you, played Apex, played Call of Duty, Warzone, and it just didn't have the same winning feeling when you're kind of going through it.
No.
Like getting to that final 10 and then having the circle there, it's so deadly quiet. It's not like just loads of running gun jumping up and down. Like everyone's so hyper tactical. Like,
it was the suspense. Like, I think that people misunderstand. Like they speed all these games up, but they're misunderstanding the need for suspense, because that's, you sit in a corner and you know there's people outside and it's just terrifying. But that is a good experience, and you're doing nothing, right?
Yes.
But they, like, so many games have like moved away from that. I think totally misunderstanding it, or choosing to play to different strengths, which is fine, but. Yeah,
it's
I miss that drug.
Yeah,
I miss that high. That's so good.
Exactly the same. And again, it's the way that the combat is done in PUBG as well. It's so well done, and I think that's what a lot of people have overlooked, because it isn't just a case of just run. You could run and gun, and a lot of people just go on to these things to run and gun.
Yeah.
And are like unbelievably good at it. But the tactical elements where you're pinned down and another squad's over there, and then you hear another squad coming running in, and you're like, shit, I'm gonna really try and think about this one here.
Yeah, having the space and time to flank or attempt to flank or change position, you know, when they're not looking, you don't get those in the other games because of the speed. But PUBG was so good with that stuff.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah, too many hackers too. Never fix that problem.
Pat, is there any particular games that you've seen, because you were sitting on here watching the showcase to a point with us, but is there any games that you've seen on the back of that showcase that really stood out to you?
Yeah, like a lot of people are saying the Ascent. That looks really interesting. Give me a little bit like some Gears vibe thing, you know, but like from above. So yeah, it looks pretty cool. And I'll definitely take a look at 12 minutes, because for some reason that game is so attracting. Like, just wanted to see what it is, you know. Like, it's also they needed to show more gameplay, because the trailer that they showed last week was the same that they shown like months ago, you know. Like, it was the same. You didn't see anything new. So, you know, I'm pretty intrigued in that game. So yeah, looking forward to that. And like Joe says, the devil inside me, devil inside, was it?
Little devil inside.
Yeah, I looked at the trailer like a few moments ago, and that game looks good. Yeah, I like that
really
type of
cool,
game.
Right?
Yeah, it looks really cool. So yeah, I'll definitely gonna check that one out as well.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
So the ones that really, I was going to say the ones that really stood out to me, and I think one that you've mentioned, but also stood out to you, was Second Extinction with the Turok vibe. Of course, I know everyone's looking forward to Second Extinction.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah, the dinosaur game.
Yes.
Totally forgot about that. Yeah. True.
An exomecha with obviously the massive giant robots and robot dinosaurs and that free-to-play game that's coming out. Of course, that looks awesome as well. Again, both Exomecha and Second Extinction are coming out relatively shortly. I think Exomecha's August, and Second Extinction I think is May, June.
Well, hopefully, Second Extinction will do so good that it'll force Capcom into doing
Another
Dino Crisis.
Finally,
Dino Crisis.
Yeah,
there you go.
Even I would Turok or Dino Crisis, either or I'll be good with that. It's been a long time since we've had a Turok.
Yeah. Last time I played it was Nintendo 64.
Yes. Yeah. Been a long time.
It's been a long time. Yeah.
The one that kind of stood out to me that's a lot of people, I don't know whether or not overlooked or just forgot about it, was Asteria Ascendant, which was more of a JRPG.
Okay.
That was a very interesting game. It reminded me a little bit more of Child of Light. It was the characters were in a very different art style to the actual scenery, which stood out straight away to me. But the game itself, being a traditional turn-based JRPG, of course, is right up my alley anyway. So that one looked awesome. Of course, then you had another, which was Nobody Saves the World, which looks just weird and wonderful. That looks an absolute awesome one to play. I'm trying to think of what else that was kind of on there. Echo Generation looked really good. I've never.
What was the one with the bird? It was sort of like top down beat 'em up, but it was
the crow one.
Yeah, that looked really cool. I mean, the art was gorgeous in that.
Yes, I'm trying to think of the name of that one now. Yeah, that one looked really good.
Yeah, that looked really cool.
I'm trying to think of what the what was it? Was that not Death's Door?
Yeah, that sounds right. It was something like that.
Yeah.
So there's a really good animator on that team, so I really appreciate that.
Yeah. No, that did look really good. That one and Demon Turf.
Oh right, yeah, that looked good too.
But they're the ones that really stood out to me per se. I'm looking forward to Echo Generation. Of course, it looks awesome as a quick free-to-play shooter. But again, Asteria Ascendant, 12 minutes. Second Extinction, of course, Song of Iron. When we get to play another demo, hopefully in the coming weeks/months, if you come up with something.
I hope to.
Is it quite hard getting a demo build together then? Only getting like a vertical slice of a game?
Yeah, I mean, you like as you go through development, you're breaking things, and it's fine because you're working over here, but that's break stuff's over here, and so having to come back and like create a really clean package that it's not going to break people's systems or is going to perform really well and all that stuff. It takes a little bit of time, but Steam's really easy because you just export it and it's basically there. It's going through the Xbox stuff's a little bit harder. Yeah. Not because it's harder on Xbox. It's just they have more safety checks, and so you have to survive all of the safety checks, if you will. Yeah, I mean they do all sorts. They turn the system off while it's playing. They unplug the system while it's playing. They switch controllers. I mean they do. There's all this stuff that it's like very Xbox dependent, and so you have to make it through all that kind of stuff, which is harder.
Yeah. And I guess knowing where to start and end the demo as well. So if you had a new vertical slice of that game, would you start it in the same place or would you start it in a new place?
I think it's going to be really similar. The demo was sort of the fake beginning that I had for a while, and I've got the real beginning in now. And so I'd probably start at the very beginning of the game and let you play up to the troll. So it's maybe a few more minutes, but it would be the actual beginning, the actual tutorial sort of areas there. Awesome. So hopefully people would kind of get more slowly brought into the very complex many buttons to push during a fight. But it'd be good to see the same.
I never played demos, but I used to love them when they would come on disc, like in magazines and things.
Oh yeah, the classics.
But see, then you couldn't see the game. Now, as long as I can see the game, I want to be able to see clips from it, trailers and gameplay and various stuff. So as long as I get all that, I don't necessarily have to have that demo to play. I'd rather wait and just play the game when it comes out.
Yeah, it's the best way to just play it. I think fresh. Some people love the demo though, and that helps. It definitely is like a great marketing.
Yeah,
thing.
for marketing, you got to have the demos now to make your game stand out because there's just so much stuff that comes out.
Yeah. People want to know too it's like trying before you buy a lot. There's so much out there. It's like this better be good if I'm going to spend $1 on it, let alone what it's going to cost.
Well, even then, saying that, this is where Game Pass really proves beneficial, especially for indie titles. And I think, in my personal perspective, is to combine ID at Xbox with Game Pass. I think, given an overall, because at the moment it's more, especially Game Pass seems more of a selection process. Like, okay, and we want you in.
It doesn't keep you from playing. I personally own over 800 games on my Xbox. I have multiple hard drives, a stack of them, Series X, and yet I still play a ton of crap in Game Pass, and I love having it. And it lets me play games that I might not have bought or tried out. So, and then if I like it, I try to support devs and various companies that I like. I'll go ahead and buy a game. And there are some I've played in there, and I'm like, okay, I've played it now. So, but most cases, I got to go ahead and buy them. And I just like having a huge game collection. And nowadays, we don't collect. I don't want to collect physically. I don't want to have hundreds and hundreds. I would mean 800 cases. I have thousands of movies in my collection already on my shelves. I love digital, though. If I buy a game and I download it to a hard drive, I own it. It's on my hard drive. As long as I've got a good copy there, or in the case, I don't know, something. I don't mind buying a game digitally. I feel like I own that just as much as I had that disc. Yeah,
and I think it stands out a little bit more as well, especially with indie titles. There's only in a lot of indie developers will know this, but especially if you're in Game Pass, is you'll play a lot of games, but you won't necessarily purchase a lot of the games from Game Pass. But then there's a fair few indie titles as well recently that I've played it and I've purchased it. Like even the brief 1-2 hours I've played of it so far, I'm liking, so I'm going to support them. And indie titles as well are what, $10-15 like these days, depending on scatter size and scope. And if you get the bigger AA, AAA indies, because like your Stalker 2, which is, let's face it, is a AAA indie. Yeah. I think we should put them brackets on them these days. It is a large development scope indie title.
Yeah.
Well, it's good we got the deal with Microsoft, so hopefully they'll throw your game on their homepage, because I'm a horrible sucker for that. I boot up my Xbox and I'm like, oh, what's that? And I'll just click on it. I won't go look for something. I won't go looking, even if I know about a game. But when it's right there and I boot it up and I see that one, it's like, I do it.
Yeah, hopefully I can get up there. I think so.
I don't see why not. And again, hopefully you end up the game comes out in a relatively, I wouldn't say a quiet period, but a period where
a little bit of a lull.
There's no big launches at the same time. And again, I think, and I don't see why not. I don't see why they couldn't put the game in Game Pass, because we know that, especially from Thomas Seller, he said himself, obviously he didn't launch into Game Pass immediately. He just launched on the system and as a paid, and then went into Game Pass a few months later. Mm-hmm. And he said it was just the night and day difference, of course, as much as sales were doing well and they were doing well on the PC. As soon as it went into Game Pass, it was like the equivalent of a small city jumping in and playing the game in one day. Yeah. And that's the kind of feedback I'm guessing you want to see as well. It's just saying, not only just seeing them numbers, but seeing the people just going, yeah, this is awesome, and then being nominated. Of course, he
was in BAFTA.
The Falcon, was BAFTA nominated in the end, which was awesome to see. And again, for much like you, one man in the house developing his game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When
I
you-
mean I would love Game Pass, so hopefully.
Hopefully.
See.
Just
If
got
I'm
to
lucky.
speak to the right people.
Hey, but Joe, I got a question.
Sure.
I also asked that like the last show when you were here about the achievements. Is there anything that you can say about the achievements? How many points are they? The people can earn, because I'll bet there are achievement hunters in the chat. So
Yeah, honestly, I've just started making a list of what the achievements will be. I don't know. That's one of those things that I'm kind of like saving for the end as far as like working with Xbox to figure it out. So I don't have a good answer for you. I mean,
okay,
I'll put in as many as they let me, I guess. We'll see I don't even know what kind of restrictions they have on that sort of stuff.
No.
If it's based by Narita Boy, who have got just mountains of.
That's so funny. Yeah, maybe I wonder if there's like a difficulty thing. Yeah, I honestly, I something I probably should know more about already, but everything's got to come in its time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I hope to have a decent chunk, and we'll
Yeah.
see. Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
I was going to say, I suppose it's a toss up between, do I have a lot of achievements for like 5G to get 1,000, or do I have smaller amounts? Because a lot of the indie titles as well just do it based on you've got past this particular chapter, so there's 100.
Yeah.
So you've got like 10 chapters which are worth 100G, or you can kind of divulge it and say, okay, you've got one for completing the game, which is a big amount. And then you've got smaller ones based on combat or finding, like you say, you might have one or two completely secret hidden weapons or something like that in there that are harder to find. And if you find it, it's an achievement.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Have the big one to finish, especially with the shorter game. If I can drive people to make it all the way through, I'll give them half the points there if they let me, And then, finding the little secrets. I think, the sort of classic 30 headshots, that sort of stuff, like bow headshots. There'll be a couple of those in there. So try to get people to play the game the best way possible too. Like encourage the right experience and all that kind of stuff.
Nice.
I was going to say potentially something like try and get past the troll or try and take down the troll without taking damage might be what.
Yeah, totally. That's a funny one. Like everybody had a hard time with it, and like I've played so much, I was so used to it. I was really surprised with how hard people were finding it, which is great. I guess I'll take it.
I suppose the one thing, I suppose the reason people, especially, it wasn't so much the combat that was the difficulty, especially when I was playing through initially when I had the teaser before you released that.
Yeah.
It was primarily the movement. It's getting used to the movement of dodging and rolling and jumping. And as soon as you've got the movement down, you're like, nah.
I played the demo as well. As soon as Dutch tweeted it out, I downloaded the demo, and I really need to get used to the controls, like the movement of the character. It was pretty hard, like in the beginning. But after a while, you get used to it, and then, it's pretty nice.
Yeah, I've changed a bit of the controls up too.
Okay.
Not crazy, but there was some of the biggest things that people were having trouble with. I fixed a bunch of that, and so I think it hopefully is just easier to use overall, which is great. And
okay.
Yeah, that was a little bit tough. I know a lot of people were like spamming roll and spamming jump and stuff with controls. Yeah. They were running out of endurance really fast, and so they couldn't get away when they needed to, which was making it pretty hard. But yeah, I think.
What did you do? What did you do to kind of get around that? Then did you just increase the endurance bar, or
a little bit?
I
changed the cost. The hope is that with the tutorial and the slower start, that people just sort of have a better chance to get used to it, and so they just know how to manage that stuff a little bit better. It's the game. You're the best if you don't try to do everything too fast, and because that's where you'll run into problems and all that. If you just kick a guy down, it's way better than rolling away and jumping and stuff as far as cost is concerned. So it's just about balancing some of those things out too. But hopefully that if that second demo comes out, then I'll learn even more and I'll fine tune it again and land somewhere really good for launch would be the hope. Yeah.
Are you still relatively happy with the bow and arrow mechanics, or have you refined them since last time? Or
they've gotten better. There was an issue on lower end systems and like the Xbox One, where basically like the aiming speed was relative to frame rate for some reason. So like if the frames were struggling, you would aim really slow and it was awful. But so it's not unlike what it was in the demo. It's just a little bit cleaner and more consistent.
Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff.
Yeah.
I used to, one thing I always made the mistake with, especially playing that, was firing absolutely nothing and forgetting that I just run out of arrows. Just
yeah.
Like, uh-oh.
Yeah, you're gonna have to manage the arrows a bit. I think the arrows are so strong, and sometimes in a cheaty way, because you can just wait on the line and just hit people as they come in. So arrows break now, which is new. Sort of a random chance to break, and more people. There'll be more around, so you'll be able to replenish them, but sort of you will run out, so you gotta be a little careful. I'm trying to figure out the best way to show the count. Like in theory, you see the quiver kind of stacked up behind you, but that can be hard in certain situations. I'm just trying to keep as much UI off the screen as possible.
Yeah.
So maybe like a little momentary flashy warning kind of thing that then goes away. It's like if you miss that, like you got to pay a little bit of attention. But I don't want to make it hard, but I just trying to keep the screen clear as much as I can.
I suppose even if it's just like a little arrow, kind of small UI thing on the arrow that kind of flashes red, just a red arrow that appears, just to let you know that was either your last one or last 4. I mean, how
that's a really good idea. Like if you fire and it makes a little extra sound that says like I'm one of the last 3 arrows, and then you kind of get a couple of those, then that hopefully would cue you in. I think the quiver can hold 15 if you
15
fill it up. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it seems like some of these things you might have to wait till the sequel. At what point do you think you'll cut off putting no more new mechanics for the game or no more new this?
Yeah, I'm pretty much there right now. So sort of content complete is a term that I use and I've used in other studios where you have no intention to design any new feature. But feedback will come in and you'll have to change something because otherwise it's just bad, or I'll have to make some adjustments here and there. And this is the stuff we're talking about now. I kind of classify there. It's the system of the arrows won't change, but it's like we could add a sound effect here to make it easier for the player to understand, and that's totally worth doing. Because it's really, here to launch, I'm basically polishing and just trying to address feedback, clean everything up, make sure it's consistent, as performant as possible, and so on.
Awesome.
But yeah, I've already sort of cut stuff. You got to do it. You go, well, this one, that's for next game or whatever.
Is it more story stuff you've cut from the game though, or is it?
No, it's more characters that were going to be in it, or kind of like mythical creatures that were too small and like didn't fit the flow very well. Kind of like just didn't feel great. And in some cases, I replaced them with easier to make kind of more mythical level stuff, and some just totally are out for now. And honestly, it's usually it's the right call most of the time. Even like I don't remember the name of it, but it's a Nordic legend thing of like someone who plays a violin by streams, and then they drown kids and women and stuff. And so I was gonna put that in there. You're gonna have to fight it, but it just didn't really fit, and so I replaced it with something else. I was a little bit more to the point, but
yeah. No, that's fair enough. Is it anything in particular then in the story where you go and obviously it's in a Norse world and kind of a Norse area, Nordic? Is there anything, because we've seen, especially in the demo, there was little sections there where there was kind of the rivers and canals full of the longboats. Is there any sections in the game where you might be on a longboat or doing anything that kind of involves that? Not maybe just in this game, but any plans to put that into future titles?
Yeah, I definitely thought about it. I was trying to think of a good way to do some longboat stuff, but I think that would maybe have to be in the following. They show up again a little bit later, but it's pretty much scenery for this game. Yeah. I would love for you to sail though for a part. I think that'd be really great. Sorry, go ahead.
With a one-man team, would they be like a day one patch? Because it seems like almost all games now have like day one patches, which just kills me.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty common. I'm hoping that I don't need a day one patch, maybe by the end of the first week or something. Just if anything, if there's like critical issues that need to be solved for like a large group of people, you definitely want to get that in there. But it's pretty common. You know, if I have to get through certification, say 2 months ahead, that's 2 months of like that I'm kind of still trying to make sure everything's fixed and little things I might have missed or whatever. The hope, though, is that I don't need to do that and I can go all the way. Xbox, I'm hoping, I mean, they're supposed to be able to be smaller, faster patches these days. And so hopefully, you know, if there is one, I mean, the game's not that big. And if there is one, hopefully it'll be a couple megs and it's just done before you even realize it's happening. But you never know.
Most definitely. And are we going to see that glorious little optimized for Series XS symbol on the final artwork? Because I know you said you wanted to change that final artwork.
yeah, I know. Well, the artwork's definitely going to update to that stuff that Adam did. And, that stuff's so amazing. It blew my way. But I hope so. My intent is to be able to get that. Yeah.
Awesome stuff.
Nice.
That neat little optimized badge on there.
Optimized for, that'd be great. That'd be big. That'd be big stuff. Got to get it.
Good stuff. Awesome. Yeah. I want to get your views on something gaming related, but also audio related. Of course, after Xbox released these bad lads not too long ago, they also announced just yesterday the release of the Bang & Olufsen new headset for a whopping $500. What do you make on $500 gaming headsets? For starters, not just because this is very niche in the first place. If you're an audiophile, $500 probably wouldn't surprise you, but in the gaming sector, that is a big chunk of change. What's your thoughts on such a?
I mean, I think it's fine to me. If you like the ones you've got, which are 150, 200, I can't remember how much they were, like the newer ones. 100. Yeah, I mean, like, there's nothing wrong with tiers of stuff to me. It would be foolish for me to get them because I can't hear the difference necessarily. I mean, side to side maybe, but I don't care for it as much. So it doesn't bother me. I'm not going to spend the money, but somebody probably would love it, assuming that they match the quality of competitive headsets at that price.
Yeah,
you'd hope too that they'd be even better. If Microsoft's like backing some development for it to make sure it's a really good piece of hardware. I'm for it until they do something grubby with it, which I don't think that they will. I would hope not. Go for it.
Well, they're a company that's I don't think Microsoft is just letting them use the Microsoft logo or whatever, but these are Bang & Olufsen, and they're an audiophile company. They put out lots of great speakers and things, and I think that's why you're getting the extra cost. But even for headphones, $500, even in the audiophile world, that's kind of pushing it. Generally, you can get a great pair of audio headphones, $150 to $300, depending on what company they're from. But there's always been those really crazy, hey, these are like, $1,000, and I've seen that stuff in the past. And I was always like, I don't care how good it sounds. It ain't, not paying that kind of
worth that money. Yeah, I mean, I love these AKGs. They were.
I got some.
They keep getting cheaper. Yeah, I mean, they're comfortable. They sound fine to me. Yeah.
And and I've got AKGs that are wireless that I use, and I've also got the Rig 800 XLs. I've had for years now. They're wireless. They're really good.
That's awesome.
I just couldn't justify them myself, to be honest. That's the thing. You've got to, especially when you look at these things, you're like, where do they? When does it get to a point that they can justify a price tag of $500 for a headset? Like, what is it that is so special about this headset that no other headset does that justifies 5 times the price of something? You know what I mean?
That Apple mentality of the fit and finish. Those Bang & Olufsens, I bet if you had them in your hand and felt them, you would realize the difference.
Well, I've read up on them, and they've got lambskin leather, calfskin leather, bamboo fiber. I was like,
what's that? I mean, there's always someone who wants to have the really expensive version of a thing, right? I mean, cars,
the high end, the best of the best.
the high end, just to have it. So
it's a small market, but from what I've seen anyway, there's been a lot of people trying to get them, and I don't know whether or not they're sold out, but there's a lot of people bought them as soon as they announced them, and there's another 2 colors coming out. So there's a mark for it. It's just I just don't know how they justify being, like I say, I've got a pair of I had a pair of Sennheisers. I've now got a pair of Pioneer audio monitor headphones there. I've got a pair of these. I've got a pair of Razors. But then you see kind of the top end Razer models that are like 200, 250, and they're like really refined gaming audio with Atmos, DTSX, and everything that's already built in there to make a crystal clear audio for 3D audio as well as just great sounding audio in the first place. It's like, how can you improve on something that already is built to sound amazing for virtual audio to make that sound clearer for another headset worth of cost?
It's not for me. I mean, I'm not going to buy them, but go for it.
It's definitely, I think it's definitely down to the materials more than the sound. Obviously, what they're using, like I mentioned, calfskin, lambskin, and bamboo, as well as having anodized kind of steel and things on there as well to make it fancy.
Yeah, you'd hope they're durable, like crazy durable too, right? I mean, the cheaper the headset, the faster the cord gets smashed through some chair, or gets ripped off your head or dropped or whatever, and the longer they live. So
and you will obviously that battery life's going to be some of the best battery you've ever had.
Has to be, right?
Outside of that, of course, we've seen, and it's outside of the idea at Xbox that it's been a relatively slower news week. But we've also seen more further updates coming to Cyberpunk, which is one of the largest update lists we've seen from a developer ever. They released a notification for an update to the game, which was 500 changes in a patch for the game itself to fix issues. Probably one of the largest lists of updates for a game I've ever seen, with 500 fixes.
And yet not the next gen patch. That's the thing that kills me.
And everybody wants that next gen patch.
That's crazy.
The only bad news that I wouldn't say bad news, but the only news that came out the back of that list was then they followed up with a developer roadmap update that then didn't have any real-time scales on the roadmap. So they said, okay, this is our roadmap for both The Witcher and Cyberpunk for the future. But then didn't provide any dates or times. It seems a bit strange to come out with a roadmap of something that doesn't have a roadmap. It's a bit strange calling that update a roadmap. Is that something? Have you come across this, even potentially working at 343, where they've said, right, this is our roadmap, but they then didn't give you a timescale?
I mean, the safer thing is to not give a timescale, because things adjust, and obviously they've had some trouble, with their timing. I'm super before 343, I worked at an MMO house, and I'm super used to the kind of the concept of the long roadmap and the massive patch notes and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's always safer to say this is what we're trying to do, but not say when, because you're inevitably going to run into like upsetting someone by having the thing that they're most interested in push. But yeah, if they're in a position where they kind of need to like play nice with everybody, and it would be nice had they said, we'll definitely have these things at this date, but we're also working on this massive chunk of stuff. Yeah, and kind of barring that, it can be a little tough.
It was just it was a strange, and the reason I mentioned it was a strange and vague update, because it was a kind of here's what we're going to do, here's what our plans are for 2021, but we can't definitively say when any of this will come, because we want to fix the game first.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Wasn't most of the fixes for the PS4 so they can get it back on their store, apparently?
yeah,
Which
yeah,
almost
because
like
obviously that's
Sony
still
putting
on
a
the
gun to their
store.
head. I don't really care for that. Like, well, we're not selling your game on our store, so you have to fix our version first. But I mean, it is what it is.
I mean, that makes sense to me. I mean, Sony, like I have to go through cert and make sure my game is stable and runs and makes it through this stuff. And I don't know if Xbox pulled it or not. I don't remember, but
No, they didn't.
They made a
refunds for anybody who had severe issues.
Yeah, so Sony just sort of made the call instead of refunds. They just pulled it and stopped having the problem. And it's I guarantee you that CD Projekt Red promised them a stable game and said, like, it's really hard for us to go through cert. It's hundreds of hours of gameplay. We are going to make it. We're a big studio. Trust us. And they basically broke the trust, right? And so Sony chose the hammer, if you will. And I'm like, honestly, like it's a good thing, I think, because they shouldn't have done it. It's crazy. I guarantee you they knew what was happening. So
yeah, I'm so glad Halo was delayed as long as it's been, just to make sure everything gets done right.
Actually, that's a good question there, Mojo. Bringing up the delay of Halo with someone who worked on it. What was the feeling then when? What was the feeling then when of course the initial trailer reaction to when they showed off the gameplay come out, and then the initial feedback? Of course, the positive feedback that come from that was that the gameplay, and in terms of how it looked and felt on a gameplay level, was exactly what we hoped for a Halo, especially with the new mechanics like the grappling hook and things that looked absolutely awesome. And obviously a lot of people are going to have fun with that, bringing things closer and smashing them off people and going up things and traversing things with a hook. But what was the overall feeling, especially on, obviously because of it needed immense refinement on its graphical output and its lighting specifically? What was the feeling in the studio then when you were told in-house, okay, this game's now getting pushed back to this and this we're doing? What was the overall kind of feelings there?
Yeah, it's a tough one. There's always there's a scatter of emotions because certain people know more than others, like where it's at, or believe in it or don't believe in it, in the various states of it, or a trailer coming out. And so in general, people were shocked at how aggressive the feedback was, I think. But it was absolutely the right choice to delay and give it the time it needed to be there, to sit into that and take that feedback and really improve it. It's going to be, 2 points on the scale better of a game because of that. I really think, which is huge if you think about it, and so it's great. I think it's always hard to hear that. Like, no matter what I thought the reaction was going to be, you never want to hear the bad reaction. It's always rough. And then, like with the indie show, you end up focusing on something that matters very little in the end, instead of talking about, the
awesome titles
or the awesome stuff, or the cool stuff that's in it, or just cool moments that were in the trailer that are really cool. And so that's always an unfortunate thing, but it's sort of how the world works, and you need to expect it, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's always rough. There's so much. It's so much going on with that sort of stuff. Big studios, it's tough. Everybody wants and believes things are a little bit different than they are, and there's always battles. And all I can guarantee you, and this is with almost any studio or any franchise, there are groups inside of the studio that totally agree with you, whoever you are, and they're fighting to get exactly what you want. Like it always exists, and it comes down to what ends up making it in. And that's true for what's shown. People will and only one or two of those groups are right, and sometimes they win and sometimes they don't. And
how big is 343 now? Not counting contractors or people who they bring in to help work on the game, but just actual at 343. I've always heard different numbers. They're pretty large, right?
It's hard to not count the contractors because they really are like a core part of the workforce there, or the groups. I don't know what it was at last time. It is now. I mean, it's hundreds, and
I've heard it as many as 800-900 at any given time.
Yeah, it's so hard to have a count because then we have outsourced teams that are completely separate, and then they bloat and then reduce the number by hundreds for the time that they're part of the project. And it's been 3 months. I don't know. They could have added or lost hundreds of people since then. So I'd be guessing.
I know that added part of the coalition to the help with the development as well.
Yeah, there's definitely. I mean, there's always. I think Microsoft tries to do that as much as possible. We helped with like Gears 4 a little bit, like way back when, and it's not like massive, but a few people just help kind of plug the holes where they can when those big moments are coming. Yeah,
I think one of the positives that came out the back of the delay as well was they opted to do more community updates a lot more frequently, a bit like Sea of Thieves started with. So when Sea of Thieves came out, they would do, and I don't think they've done them as much these days, but especially in the initial 6 to 12 months, they were doing these bits where they were sitting in the tavern and they were discussing the updates every week and what was going to come in the development roadmap and the updates that are coming in. And they still do them to a point where one of them will sit down and say, right, this is what we're working on. This is what we hope to introduce. This is what's going to come out in further updates. And 343 have opted to do something very similar, where they've done like a developer diary, should we say, and they get their own team, sit down with some of the keys of each of the sections and kind of go through what is it you're working on, community questions, day and night cycles, graphics, lighting, mechanics, gameplay, and then just dive into what's being implemented, what isn't there, what is going to be there for launch, roadmap stuff. The best thing about the delay is it's changed 343 as a foundation, I think, for the better, as opposed to, I think Xbox now can potentially see the benefits of being more open in development and showing, right, okay, we'll talk to people a bit more about it. And again, much to what you do, and especially what you've done throughout your development process, is be very open with how your development has been and how you go about creating things. And I think one of the major benefits of that is obviously you've got a side effect of people seeing how you develop games, potentially wanting to get into games in the first place because of that. I think that's an awesome knock-on effect as well. And is that potentially something that you might have thought about as well when you were doing these developer diaries, that maybe it can get more people interested in it?
Yeah, I think it was a huge part of it, honestly. Like, I was able to get as far as I was getting because other people had done that before me. And so I was able to understand and figure out Unreal stuff. And so I was just trying to kind of return that into the world from my strength, which is animation for the most part. So it's awesome. I mean, the more of us there are, the better. The more games we get, the more people can be happy with playing and stuff. But yeah, I think it's awesome that Xbox is doing it, or Halo's doing it. We definitely, on the animation team, we wanted to like live stream animating for the game and stuff. We thought that'd be so cool, but it's a little tough. And the last thing you want to do is say something wrong or have someone walking by saying like, yeah, so at the end of the game, blah, blah, blah. Like disaster, right? But there's versions that would be really great. And it's awesome that they're doing updates. I think we're in the place in gaming now that's what people want to hear. Like, if you want that, you go there and you listen to it. If not, you wait for the game to come out and be completely surprised or whatever. But it's awesome that they're doing it.
The good thing that both, I was going to say the good thing that both, obviously with larger titles, it's a bit different. But with yourself specifically, you show more the mechanics and what you've added into the game in terms of whether it's adding new weapons and how the weapons work and things like that, and showing people the backstory to how to get them to work, and of course mobility of the character, how that works, traversal. So you're not really spoiling a story whilst you're showing off the development, which is great. You're not showing off the kind of the game as a whole either. To a point, you're also just really showing the development process. And the way that both Sea of Thieves and Halo are doing it is Halo are just showing off kind of artist renderings of areas or potential a couple of screenshots, but nothing that would disrupt kind of or spoil the game. And outside of that, they stick to more just kind of a running commentary. So they'll just ask questions of each of these developers and they'll explain what's being developed, as opposed to trying again to spoil anything, which is a good way of doing it.
Yeah, totally.
And again, go on.
Yeah, it's just about, it's like, how much can I share? How much can I share without giving away stuff that's important? Right?
It's really awesome to see like how the process is from how it starts and how far it is now, because you saw it earlier when you showed like a little bit of the development in the beginning. It's so crazy to see, because these are things that I never seen, you know, like how you make it, the movement, that kind of stuff. It's so interesting to see how it all works, you know, like, so much work to it. That's pretty awesome. Yeah. So
and
it's
just how
really,
far it's come as well. Just
yeah,
how far it's
exactly.
come
Yeah,
from Ragdoll Viking.
Ragdoll,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's pretty awesome to see. Yeah, that's
it's awesome to look back and like, see whenever I see that Ragdoll drunk Viking, it gives a huge smile on my face. It's so funny.
That's all. You might need to put some kind of Easter egg in there with just a Ragdoll
I
Viking.
know, right? Yeah, cheat codes to be the drunk Viking, and see how you do.
No, that would be awesome. No, to be fair, I don't develop at all, but I had exactly the same questions about designing that and putting that together. It was like, what is the process behind it, and how do you go about creating it in the first place, and like how long does it take, and what do you do, and I'm guessing obviously you're part of a large Reddit community where you kind of speak to other indie developers and other people using Unreal, but also to fans that want to know more about the game. So I'm guessing you get not just in Twitter or YouTube, but you get a lot of questions yourself about how you do certain things.
Yeah, it comes and goes. I mean, there's definitely people will ask me very specifically, like, I'm trying to do this thing, like, how are you doing that? And we'll talk about it. I'll try to help them out. I mean, there's nothing I'm doing that's like a crazy secret that I need to hold for the game. Like, I'm intentionally not making anything like that, because it's hard and there's no support, and it's just easier. My whole mentality is simplicity, and so I love helping people out. It's really fun, I love talking about this stuff.
The big boys have whole support studios that they call in, that
exactly.
whole studios that don't even make their own games. People don't even realize that there's studios that just help various other people make their games, and then they don't get a lot of credit for it, but it's so important to the industry, dude.
Yeah, they're crucial. I mean, they do massive things. I did a trip to Russia last year to go visit one that we were working with out in St. Petersburg, and like that was super fun for me. I mean, it was a blast. I was out there for a week. But yeah, it's crazy, because then it's all about communication and trying to get from them what you need, but they're still people, so you want them to have fun making it and stuff. And so it's a whole
I did a week in St. Petersburg back in 1986. Actually, it was 2 weeks. I did a week in Moscow and a week in St. Petersburg. It was pretty awesome.
I loved it. I was only there for a week. It was just St. Petersburg, but oh my gosh, I love that place. It was so fun.
Have you got any further plans then? Obviously, we spoke about this before as well, but to add additional developer diaries before launch? I know you said you've been so bogged down with work, which is understandable now. You are fighting for yourself.
I see I see the light at the end of the tunnel, and so I'm just sort of like kind of head down. I really want to get back to it. Now that I've sort of like reestablished my pace and everything, being away from 343 for a couple months, I really want to get back to it, even if they're just small kind of rehashes of what I'm putting out on Twitter.
Did you ever put in like a design process behind the lightning and getting that kind of pullback thing to work?
I should. That'd be a fun thing to talk about. Little things like that would be great. I'd really need to start that up again.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And again, it's just something at least to put in like even a little sizzle reel for just before the game launches. It's like a show how far you've come, kind of.
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna
all started. This is where it ended.
Definitely, we'll do a progress trailer. I did one like last summer or something, like the 1 year mark. I did one, and it was crazy to see. I mean, how far it's come. And you showed some of it. I think Boom showed some of it today.
Yeah. Do you record a lot of the development process as well yourself? Anyway, just to have as documentation.
Yeah, I should do more. A lot of it kind of comes from when I'm recording for like the weekly posts or something, and then I've kept all of that stuff, and then I end up using that and some of the B-roll from that in there. But I should do more just straight behind the scenes footage.
Is there any ray tracing in the game?
No, I actually decided to not do any ray tracing. It's a super powerful thing. it's one of those, like, I chose simplicity over it, and I would have had to rework a lot of stuff to make it work really well. Because it's such a realistic thing. It requires everything in the world to be realistic. And so if without everything built perfectly for it, it'll break and not work great in a lot of cases. So for now, no ray tracing, but you'll barely know. Yeah, it's
yeah, this is not the kind of game I thought would have had ray tracing. But
it definitely could, and it would benefit really well from it. Maybe like,
I'm assuming you're still got some kind of global illumination that you use.
Yep, global illumination. Everything is lit by like a real quote unquote sun. It's not fake lit because it's a fully built out world. I'm using the full world lighting systems and stuff. So yeah.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
And one of the things again, I think Boom touched on his show as well was for future titles, because we know from Booms that you hope to make this into a trilogy. For future titles, then jumping into Unreal Engine 5, of course, they have lumens, which would be a far less kind of costly version of a ray tracing effect on the game. Is that something that you would rather then implement there to keep the resources down, as well as then get a very similar result in the end process?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm all for giving the Unreal 5 the proper chance when I get there. I think obviously it looks gorgeous, if that demo shows us anything, depending on how totally realistic that demo was. But I mean, it's everything I want from an engine, because it basically means that I don't have any restrictions on the stuff that I'm trying to do, or very little. So part 2, if everything goes well, I'll absolutely will be looking into 5 for sure.
Well, one of the best things I've heard about UE5, and that's obviously directly from Unreal, was that it's as simple as essentially just migrating your assets from UE4 to UE5.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too. I assume it's actually going to feel a lot like upgrading from like 4.26 to 4.28, or any of the micro versions. I doubt. Like anytime someone says there's a new engine, it's usually just, okay, we're finally flipping the switch on these major features that force us to do a certain level of upgrade. And I'm assuming it's not unlike that. So, which is great for me. And, the simpler that conversion is, the better.
No, most definitely. Is there anything that you found so far then to be extremely difficult on the development of the game from the start? What's been the toughest thing to actually get right and get working?
I think the hardest one for me directly was the climbing system. It's so complicated, and there's so many ways to, like, things to do while climbing. You jump, you do this, you do that, you go over the ledge. There's all these little things. Pushing the moving cart and then climbing on top of it is definitely like a really complicated system. There's not a most locomotion has a pretty simple system somewhere in Unreal to start with, and there's not like and then for climbing walls in a 2D platformer, here, use this, like, that doesn't exist. So it's sort of my truest pure, I had to code my own climbing system thing, and that was definitely tough. But from the demo till now, it has improved massively. That's probably the biggest improved system. I showed it off a little bit, and I showed him jumping around and kind of auto climbing over lower things, and just all these little things. Yeah, it's gotten way, way better.
Awesome stuff. And was that so the traversal or the climbing aspect, that was the hardest thing to develop so far then?
Yeah, I think so. Just the general kind of all-encompassed climbing system was definitely the hardest.
Awesome stuff. And what has been the simplest thing that you've been able to add into the game then?
I think
that you're most proud of. Let's change that up a little bit.
Yeah, sure. I think I'm super happy with the reaction animations and just the general feedback around the impacts of stuff. I think there's still more to go, but, like, everybody loves the flying kick, the arrows and axes to the face. I mean, that stuff just feels super good and feels right in mood with what I want for the game. And so both simple, but also has sort of the best response. So those things, yeah.
Awesome stuff. And the only thing I want to ask is if you do bring that Warhammer into the game, it has to be a little bit like Thor's hammer, like hold it up with the lightning coming to it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. You never know.
You never know. You never know.
You never know.
Awesome stuff. We will wrap up today's show then. Absolutely awesome. Thank you again, Joe, for coming onto the show and kind of giving a more of an update, not only on yours, but now, of course, we can unveil that you had been working specifically on 343 and Infinite.
Yeah,
Talk a little bit about that as well. Of course, we knew you'd worked on the Sentinels and Halo 5 in the past. But of course, something of that magnitude, you have to kind of keep quiet for a bit, don't you?
Yeah, very, very important that those things were separated from each other.
Oh, most definitely, especially on, like you say, for your own work-life balance as well. It's quite hard to switch off from two jobs at the same time. So it's awesome, and absolutely from us, of course, massively proud of kind of seeing you, not only from where you first came on the show, to where you are now, and having kind of being able to make that jump, which is a huge jump for yourself personally, from working just 343 and big AAA to then working on your own game, and then now making that massive jump into singular development for yourself. Proud of you from everybody here, and of course everybody that watches you. And couldn't wish for better things for this game coming out. And obviously we'll be pushing it as hard as we can to kind of get as many people to play it and see it. So it's an absolute honor for us again to have you on the show, and obviously have you back on, kind of not only close at the time, but as things progress and we see more of the game, we'll get you back on with things. The problem we've got at the minute as well is gaming news is relatively dry in the early stages of the year.
Yeah.
So in the middle of the year, when especially when things are starting to pick up again with gaming news and announcements and things like that, we'll get you back on as a regular panel member, and we'll discuss game announcements and things like that. Get you involved on that front. Awesome stuff. But yeah, again, thank you very much for coming on, brother. If you let people know where they can follow you, find out about updates of the game, and kind of when you are putting them videos out, where they can watch it, and anything else social wise.
Yes, Song of Iron, or at Song of Iron on Twitter, is definitely my most active place. Of course, it can be wishlisted on Steam right now, Song of Iron, and then once the Xbox store goes up, which will be a little bit later, obviously you be there and be ready. But just to support, following people like Dutch, it helps a lot because I'm just myself and I can only shout so loud, and I really appreciate all the support and being on the show, and it's great. It's awesome. It's a lot of fun.
Brilliant. Awesome stuff. Thank you again. Thank you very much. Secondly, Mojo, thank you very much again for coming along, brother. And if you let people know where they can find you and what you've got coming up.
Well, I was really happy to be here. It's really nice to interview somebody that's in the business, and not only in the business, but actually creating an IP and things like that. It's just awesome. As far as me, I'm always on Twitter, Mojo_Blues1. I'll be on Thursdays. I don't think we'll be on there. It wasn't this week, but I think we'll be back next week with Mads Gaming's Next Gen podcast. I'm a regular member. And then on Saturday nights, I do a thing with a guy called the Gaming Werewolf, where we just talk about anything and everything. It's everything but the kitchen sink podcast. It's a lot of fun. Any subject is good to go. Movies, pop culture, but a lot of video game talk. See, we're both old guys that just love talking video games. But yeah, I appreciate you having me on here today. It was great to actually talk to a real developer, because there's a lot of pseudo devs that show up on podcasts. And when you try to pin them down on what have they really worked on, and then it's not. And here's a guy that's worked on big time games, and now he's making his own game, and I love that. I'm very appreciative, and I'm a target customer because I'm a retro guy that loves stuff like this. That's awesome. I'll be day one buying it on, and I'm a console guy, so I won't be getting it on PC, but I'll be buying it day one on Xbox.
That's just fine.
I
appreciate it.
Yeah, you're like Xbox themselves. They don't care where you play it. Just buy my game, and they're happy, and I get it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And thank you very much for coming along, Mojo. It's been a pleasure having you on, and again, some great questions for Joe and otherwise. Patchy, last but not least, brother, if you let people know what you've got coming up, what you're going to be doing, and I know you've got some new content ready for the channel for next week, don't you? So
yes, I do. So yeah, they need to wait for a week. So, but you guys will see it. So, yeah, I want to thank Joe again for coming along. It's always a pleasure to hear the development and the new things that you do with the game. So I'm looking forward to what we're gonna hear next and when the game is out. So can't wait, man. So thank you again.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter, of course, Petchu070, and on Xbox, and also on Twitch, of course.
Yes.
Didn't stream a lot lately, busy with work, so I'll try to go live this weekend. But keep an eye on the Twitter, and you'll see it.
Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. And again, if you missed this earlier, when we get closer to the release of Song of Iron with Joe, we'll get Joe back on the show. We're doing a giveaway ourselves for 3 copies of the game itself to our hardcore fans here that come out every week and join us. So if you want a chance of winning the game at release, then definitely join us. You're 1 in 3 chance, of course, of winning the title, and then you can play the game on launch. It will be ready for launch as well, so you won't have to wait for it a week after or anything like that. We'll make sure it is launch day, so you can play it when it releases. But other than that, you can find myself on Twitter at WandrinDutch, Twitch at WandrinDutch, and what we've got coming up next week, of course, is some new content from Patchy. So Pat is actually going to be doing a 1 week impressions of having these bad boys on, but also comparing against other headphones in a similar price bracket. So tune in for that. He's going to be doing anything from full quality to audio and everything in between. So you know really what the difference is between them and whether or not that £100 is worth the weight in gold. So
Yep.
Be sure to tune in next week for that. Other than that, we're back again next Wednesday for Midweek Mixup episode 31. We're getting there again. But yeah, absolutely awesome. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and we hope you have an amazing evening. Thanks, and see you later.
See you guys.
Take it easy.
Thanks for